Hello reptile friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is India, aka Anacondiac, and today's video is the fourth instalment in my PETA Exposed series. This series is in collaboration with another amazing YouTuber called Chris. If you haven't checked out his channel already, I will link it in the cards above, so go and subscribe to him and check out his channel if you haven't done so already. So we've been working on this series to expose all the harm that PETA does to the animals that it is supposedly meant to be protecting. Last week's video was all about Maya the Chihuahua, who was this adorable little family dog that PETA stole actually from the front porch of the family home, and they put her down along with 5 other animals within just a few hours of Maya and the other animals being in their custody. In the state of Virginia, animals taken into custody need to be held for a grace period of 5 days, and by putting Maya down within just a couple of hours of actually having her in their custody, they broke that 5-day grace period. So the Zarate family, Maya's owners, never had the chance to find Maya, they never had the chance to get her back, and it's just so heartbreaking, the entire thing. So the family then took PETA to court, and we looked in detail in the last video all about this court case between the Zarate family and PETA. And we also saw the testimony of an ex-PETA staff member who recalled that PETA told her to do horrible things such as go into communities and lie to them about giving their dogs and cats a new home, when in fact the employees knew that the animals were going to be taken and euthanized, not rehomed to better homes. So does this sound too horrible to actually be true? Go and check out the video if you haven't already. I will put the link in the cards above, because if you don't believe it, you need to go and check it out for yourself, because I promise you it is all true. So today's video is all going to be about PETA's checkered past with the over-sexualisation of women in their advertising campaigns. So PETA has never been one to shy away from using shock tactics to promote their cause. They've dressed volunteers up as members of the KKK, they've made fun of obese women, and even ruined my own perception of Christmas with this rather grim advert promoting the message that milk can cause impotence. I never, ever wanted to have a mental image of Santa's erectile dysfunction forced into my brain, but yet here we are. Thanks, PETA. So back to the topic of PETA and the fact that they over-sexualise women in so many of their campaigns. There is no shortage of pictures from PETA's many different campaigns using naked or semi-naked women. There are literally so many photos, I don't think it's possible for me to include them all in this video. They go from women being compared to pieces of meat to an advert that was meant to be aired during the Super Bowl, but was then banned for being too racy. But India, I hear you ask, what could be so bad about an advert that it ended up being banned? Like, how racy can an advert be? Well, brace yourselves, because it is actually very bad. Because this advert showed several women getting sexually active with various vegetables. It even showed a woman herself with a bunch of asparagus. So I'm not going to show all the advert, it was banned for a reason, it is weird. And as a vegan, my vegetables feel violated. But, you know, I can see why it was banned, because everyone's just trying to enjoy the Super Bowl and, you know, they're having a nice time. They don't want to see asparagus being used in such a way. So one of my main issues with PETA's advertising is that it has always religiously compared women to pieces of meat. By using the shock tactics of showing naked bodies to promote their cause, all PETA is doing is using women's bodies to attract attention while objectifying them and comparing them to different cuts of meat. I do get what they are trying to do. They are trying to use shock value to attract media attention. They're showing that we as humans contain the same body parts as animals, and so we're not too different from the animals on our plate. But if they're really so passionate about pushing that message, why aren't there both men and women in their pictures, in their adverts? Why does it have to be just glamorous, barely covered models? I'm convinced that PETA knows that sex sells, And unfortunately, there is no place for adverts like this that dehumanise women and objectify them in 2019. Every year we're pushing further and further for women's bodies to be treated as equally as men's bodies. Many women are still afraid to breastfeed in public, which is a completely natural thing to do, because they're afraid other people will shame them. Women's breasts have literally evolved to breastfeed children. That is what they are there for. That is what they are attached to our bodies to do. There is nothing sexual about breastfeeding your child, but women are still afraid to do it in public because breasts are considered sexual things, and adverts like this really aren't helping. So campaigns like this set the feminist movement back by years. Women are not pieces of meat to be ogled at or stared at. We women are not animals. I think there is still this massive perception that sex sells. However, there is evidence to suggest that this is not true at all. A study published in the International Journal of Advertising used the results from 78 studies. That's a lot of studies, between 1969 and 2017, and they found that while people tend to remember adverts that contain sexual imagery or sexual themes better than adverts that do not contain it, the memory of those adverts doesn't extend to what the advert is selling or even the brand that is behind the advert. The brain just remembers the kind of sexual themes in the advert. In addition to this, the sexual imagery can actually have a negative effect of the advert on how the brand is perceived. Overall, men seem to respond better to adverts which do contain sexual themes, whereas women tend to respond more negatively. And in neither case is there any evidence to suggest that the sexual themes in adverts increase the chance of people purchasing the product or supporting the brand even more. So let's break that down a little bit. So even though people will tend to remember the advertising campaigns because they're a bit racy or have sexual things in, they don't actually end up really remembering what the brand is that is actually putting the advert out there or what the advert's actually selling. So they remember the advert and then not much else. So if a lot of PETA's campaigns are this kind of racy stuff, which a lot of it is, a large percentage of all their campaigns has media out there looking like this racy stuff, people are going to remember the image of the sexy woman, you know, standing in the field of peppers or whatever, but they're not going to remember that that's PETA, and they're not going to remember that the advert is trying to convince people to go vegetarian or go vegan, etc. They're just going to remember the woman stood in the field of peppers. So using advertising tactics like that doesn't actually enhance PETA's campaigns in any way. It just makes it a little bit weird now because they're relying so much on these sexual campaigns. It has been proven that they're not even that effective. And in addition to all of that, there is actually more evidence to suggest that campaigns that use sexual themes to promote ethical causes, just like PETA does, actually have less chance at succeeding. In a study of 82 Australian male undergraduates that were exposed to a number of images of PETA's campaigns featuring both sexualised women and non-sexualised women, the participants that were exposed to the sexualised images reported reduced support for PETA due to the images seemingly dehumanising the women pictured in them. A second study, this time of 280 mixed gender students in the US, also reported similar findings. So I'm going to read you now a paragraph that is taken from the article regarding the results. Behaviours helpful to the ethical cause diminished after viewing the sexualised advertisements, which was again mediated by the dehumanisation of the women depicted. Alternative explanations relating to the reduced credibility of the sexualised women and their objectification were not supported. When promoting ethical causes, organisations may benefit from using advertising strategies that do not dehumanise women. So PETA continues to use these advertising strategies of using very sexualised images of women, despite the fact that there is now evidence, strong evidence to suggest that it is not the most effective advertising strategy for them to actually be using. Here's another paragraph. I know it's a lot of paragraphs, but this is another paragraph taken from the same research article on why dehumanising women is a potentially dangerous practice. Research has now shown that sexualised women are dehumanised, specifically being seen as more animal-like than non-sexualised women. This subtle form of dehumanisation, called infrahumanisation, involves seeing another as lacking uniquely human characteristics such as rationality, refinement and culture. Dehumanisation can have damaging consequences for its targets. For example, men who dehumanise women by associating them with animals or objects are more likely to sexually harass women and have a higher rape propensity. So this is just further proof that sexual advertising has no place in PETA's repertoire at all. For an organisation that basically wants animals to be treated equally and just as importantly as humans, dehumanising women in their adverts just goes completely against their ethical standpoint. So most of PETA's campaigns that contain images of naked women actually don't need to feature nudity to get the point across. This advert, the Spice Up Your Life campaign, would that picture be any different if the model actually had clothes on? She would still be sat in a field of chilies. I don't think the addition of clothes would detract from the message at all. In contrast, this one is actually a use of nudity in a campaign that kind of makes sense. With a tagline of "The Naked Truth," you can see why they've made the decision to have a naked model. Now, I'm not saying that once again using sex appeal to promote this advert was the right thing to do at all, but you can see why they've chosen to do it in relation to the whole naked truth tagline. But then there's so many other of their campaigns that feature naked women where the actual advertising campaign and the slogans have no relation to nudity at all, such as this Go Green campaign, which would probably be equally as effective if the model shown was wearing clothes. The nudity has no place in that advert at all. Probably the most dehumanising of all PETA's works is a short film called The Herd. In it, a group of women are held captive and impregnated so their milk can be harvested and sold. This practice is actually what happens to dairy cows in the milk and the dairy industry, and in my opinion it is a completely horrific practice. I'm vegan, I have been for a good few months now. But again, they are using the dehumanisation of women by comparing them to cows once again, and it is incredibly uncomfortable viewing, which is undoubtedly actually what PETA intended it to be. So the last advert that I want to focus on is this one. It shows a girl, injured, limping and sporting a neck brace. All because her boyfriend apparently went vegan and they had such rough sex, he injured her.
This is Jessica. She suffers from BWV-AKT boom. Boyfriend went vegan and knocked the bottom out of me.
Apparently, according to PETA's campaign, vegans last longer in bed. But in my opinion, that concept is completely lost in this advert, as all the attention is put on the girlfriend and her seemingly really horrific injuries. A PETA spokesperson told the Daily News, "She's coming back from the grocery store with an armful of vegetables because she enjoyed it so much." But that's not what it comes across as. The message about vegans having an increased sex drive from a vegan or a vegetarian diet is completely lost because the image of that injured girlfriend walking across town with that limp and that neck brace, she comes across as so completely victimised, and it actually makes me feel a bit ill. It worries me that a group of people presumably created this advert and enough people thought that it was okay that this advert ended up actually being released. How is this advert okay really? It's horrific. It's awful. That's it. I'm done. I've had enough of PETA for today. I'll be back next week with the 5th instalment of the PETA Exposed series, which is going to be focusing on how PETA want to end all pet ownership completely. They do not want anyone to own pets. So that is going to be the topic for next week's video. As always, I have linked all my sources in the description box below. I would love to hear what you think about this controversial subject, so please let me know in the comments below. But just to let you know, I have formed all these opinions by myself, and all the opinions that I actually share in this video are my own. If you like this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up, and remember to subscribe if you haven't already, and click the little bell notification button, and then you won't miss the next episode in the PETA Exposed series. If you haven't had enough of me already, you can also now find me on Instagram and Twitter @Anachondriac, the same way that it is spelled here on YouTube. If you like the colour yellow and you like reptiles, then you are definitely going to like my Instagram feed, just saying, and you should go and check it out now. Also, if you'd like to support me and my channel further, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below. Until next time, I'll see you later. Bye reptile friends!